Alright, it's time for the Healer Season 4 Dragonflight tier list. Now, the reason they are like this, none of them are kind of easy and insane, but they are, but they're not. But I just want the caveat of, like, honestly, it should be more like this, you know, all of them down here, something like this, maybe even this, because it's just harder to play a healer depending on the people you're playing with. If you have a tank that pulls a lot, if the tank doesn't keep in mind your mana, if your DPS aren't interrupting, CCing, or popping defensives, and yeah, yeah, pretty much that. I mean, if you don't have these kind of players, then you're gonna have a tough time healing them. Uh, for some, that's more interesting. For me, I actually do like healing, but mainly like overcoming the challenge of bugs. It's a weird way to say it, but I find it kind of boring when the entire comp is insanely good. But the problem I want to emphasize with season 4 is that it's just not really possible anymore. You really do need tanks and DPS that are CCing, that are popping defensives, at least CCing. Like at least CCing, because so many mobs cast abilities that just will one shot you or one shot the entire group. It's just like that. And in the raid, I don't really talk about the raid. The raid is the raid. If you're going for mythic or something like that, it's just pick the healer that is the thing that is needed because it has the revival or it has the master spell or whatever. All healers are great in the raid. All healers will do great all the time. You might have some ups and downs, but really, I would not worry about picking a healer because of raid reasons. For normal and heroic, you could stack triple, quadruple, any of these and do completely, absolutely fine. Because they all have raid cooldowns, they all have 5 target healing, single target healing, big healing, spot healing, everything. So don't worry too much about it. It's mainly Mythic Plus that you have to think about and think about your playstyle. Okay, so Mistweaver is very good, very very good, very powerful, and it's getting a little bit of a rework in the War Within to make it even better. But the thing that was lost is that they don't have casting anymore. Essentially, like you're losing SS font, for example, in the next expansion, because currently you just don't press SS font at all. You press it to get the buff, that fist waving buff, and that's it. And then you just cancel the cast essentially. So it's changing. But if you like the fist waving playstyle, man, you will love it. Like it is very powerful. It is very strong. It is simple and easy, but it's a little bit. It takes a little bit of time to get down. That's why I need to move them like this, because they are easy and fun. It takes a little, just a tiny bit. I need a one in between here. It's a tiny bit of time to get down how to play it because it looks strange. And the biggest thing is that you need. There's no exception. All healers need to know this. The dungeon. You need to know the dungeon. If you don't know the dungeon, and you go in blind, that's okay. We all go in blind at the beginning of the expansion or season or whatever. But you have to focus on, okay, these mobs do a lot of damage. I need to pop these healing cooldowns. I need to pop this, blah blah blah, so I can heal the group because they just do a lot of damage. And you also need the people to be CCing, but you can also CC some. So uh, you want to kind of focus on that more than just I'm just gonna raw output maximum healing, try my best, because that might go a little bit difficult. That might be a little bit difficult, but some can do it, and I'll show you. Um, Holy Paladin. Holy Paladin is take some time. It has had a rework. I'm not 100% sure about the rework. I have not checked it too much, but I know for a fact that they got nerfed into Oblivion, but they're still doing fine, you know. And hopefully things will get better with Holy Paladin. But the reason you see Holy Paladin in the highest groups and all that stuff before is because they have all of the utility and the healing, right? They have the Blessing of Sacrifice, Blessing of Protection, their own Divine Shield. They are very tanky with their 10% stamina, 10% avoidance passive, as all Paladins have. They have, they had or have or will have insanely powerful single target, two, three, four target heal that just heals people to full multiple times, right? The the holy shocks that just absolutely heal people to maximum, and forehand word of glory, but they kind of ruined word of so uh, if you love Holy Paladin, you will still love Holy Paladin, and it will still be good. You don't have to worry too much about like, oh, it's nerfed, it's so doing so bad. No, no, no. It's kind of brought into line, but they're just a little bit better healers at the moment, and people are having fun with that and trying something else. Most top end healers play all the healers or focus on one or two healers, but Holy Paladin has usually been the one healer that people have been able to main for forever because they've always been really good. So they're gonna bounce back. Don't worry about it. Plus, we're talking about the highest of highest keys, the equivalent of like currently a plus 20 or something, which was previously a plus 30. Like then you have to start thinking about like, oh, do we have this? Do we have that? Blah blah blah. Don't worry about it. Like if you like the playstyle, it takes a little time, but you'll enjoy it. Same with Resto Shaman. Resto Shaman both have simplicities to it and complexities to it. The healing is very simple, right? You have your basic Riptide Chain Heal, Healing Wave, Healing Surge, right? Your single target, your Cleave, your Hot, and you have some cooldowns, and you just kind of play around that. It's a very standard classic healer. Not classic is in WoW Classic, but like classic healer, like how healers are. You cast and you heal, but the complexities is kind of the utility of the spec. You have a lot of utility that can help a lot. You have enemy dispels. You have AoE stuns. You got your Earth Elemental. You do have Bloodlust, which sometimes you kind of forget to you have to press Bloodlust. I do. I forget to press Bloodlust a lot, and you have a bunch of utility. And if not, if you are required or have to run Cloudburst Totem, then the complexity goes up a decent amount, right? Some people hate Cloudburst Totem. Some people don't like. Some people like it. Some people don't. But it's essentially you put down a totem and then you kind of pump it healing into everyone, and it stores up all of the healing, 25% of it or something like that. Depends on how much they nerf or buff it. And then when you cancel the totem, essentially, it bursts and does split healing to everyone. Uh, don't think about if you're using this totem and you have to use it or whatever. Don't think about the healing as something that you are uh, how to say, you have to like preemptively pump it up when people are taking damage. Just put it down when you know damage is about to show up. Don't rely on it. Pop your cooldowns, pop your ascendants, spam chain heals, all the good stuff. Preemptively put riptides on people, get your buffs and stuff like that. And then towards the end or so, just cancel your Cloudburst Totem or let it expire. It will do some great healing, right? Don't think about it as like something you have to put down before people are taking damage. Heal, like spam over healing into everyone and then pop it at the correct time. You will not get much out of it. It's just like a healing pad or a safety pad. You could think about it like that. You're in like a dungeon, you're healing everyone crazy, you put down the totem, you keep healing everyone crazy, and then one person takes like super quickly takes like very heavy damage. You can pop the totem and it will focus the healing into that person because they are the only ones that are like super low, you know. So think about it more like that. Um, Resto Druid. Resto Druid has the same thing, some complexities, but a lot of power. But for the most part, it's quite simple. You put your hots up, except for rejuvenation. I'm not sure if they season 4 is different, but in season 3 you're using Grove growth tenders. I think they're called growth tenders. The trees. Uh, for most of your healing, they pad your healing, they boost your healing. They're very powerful. They put hots on people. You don't use rejuvenation, so for the most part, as a healer, as a resto druid healer, it is kind of the ultimate. You have to know that damage is coming to heal, right? But there's a tiny little trick you can do to fix that. All you really have to do is just every single pull, just put hots on everyone and maintain them. And once they take damage, all you have to do is just regrowth, and they will heal for a crazy amount because of your mastery, right? So just be always ready for damage, and then later on, and then just like slash yell macro slash whisper tank, I need mana, I need mana, I need mana, stop, 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 stop. Just in every pull, spend like 20, 30, 40% of your mana, and then just next pull, spend all of your mana, and then yell at the tank to stop. But I mean, the good thing is that you have some good mobility, so you can just catch up quite easily. And Resto Druid has the strongest healing in the game, and I have seen a clip of Resto Druid healing like 20 or 25 bursting stacks, where everyone is taking 80% of their damage per tick and healing that, and then they kill something else and refresh the stacks to like 25 stacks or something, and he keeps healing that, and then they refresh it, I think, one or two more times, and he still keeps healing all of that up. Crazy. But it requires you to know what's gonna go, what's gonna happen. Yeah, but that's kind of all healers anyway. The complexities and the thing that's very hard to master about this pack is you have so many buttons. You have so many ways you can heal. You have so many ways you can support your team with defensives and utility and stuns, and well, not stuns really, but like CCs and stops. Stops is better, and you can even pick up an interrupt, though. I wouldn't really. You don't really need to pick up the interrupt. Honestly, it's kind of like the only healer spec I wouldn't really recommend picking up the interrupt. But you can also do some kitty cat weaving and do some very big damage with kitty cat weaving if you want. It is absolutely not required. No healer currently, because it's not the way season 4 is going to be played. No healer is required to do any amounts of damage. Do not worry about that in any capacity, because everyone is taking crazy amounts of damage, and you need a good healer. There's so much avoidable damage. There's so much unavoidable damage. So keep that in mind. This is the healer season. You are healing, but unfortunately, the DPS in the tank and sometimes you have to CC as well. So yeah. All right. So I would have put this over here if it wasn't for preservation existing, but maybe. Okay, I'll put it over here, but I'll talk about this first. This discipline priest, this priest, is the hardest healer because it's kind of designed not to have enough healing, but you have defensives, you have absorb shields, and you have the barrier, for example, and you have power word, the one that gives you a very big absorb shield on your power word shield and puts it on no cooldown, or it doesn't give people any of the debuff, or you can just put up absorb shield past the debuff, stuff like that. So the problem is, I mean, healing on it is insanely simple. You just press power word radiance, or you just put renewal, renew, or the shield on people until they get their atonement, and then you just DPS and it heals them. There's not much else you can really do, but that's the problem. There's not much else you can really do. So it is very highly dependent. If people are taking too much damage, it is so highly dependent on them using their defensive correctly and using their CC correctly. Because there is not much you can do in terms of like pumping healing into them. There are some talents like the ultimate penitence or penance that you can pick up to help you with this, which is really good, which is what I really recommend. Just picking up the throughput healing talents instead of picking out the DPS throughput healing talents in a sense, and just go with that instead. And don't be afraid. If people die, they die. That's their issue, right? Because they need to pop their defenses. They need to CZ. Like it, that's the kind of hardest thing about this priest. But the bonuses of this priest is all of the priest utility, the master spells, the fade, and the mind soothe, even mind control in many situations. Very very powerful. Life grip sometimes. Absorb shields for damage that's too much, where defensives and your health isn't enough, so you give them absorb shield for extra kind of defensive and their own defensive and barriers, and it's more coordinated, much more coordinated, but very satisfying. But for a beginner, it's kind of hard to get this priest down because it feels very unsatisfying because you're really trying your hardest and there's just not much healing coming out of you. Like, you need to have very good gear and you need to have a pretty decent group where even though they might make a mistake once or twice per mob pack or whatever, if they're not quick on their health potions or stuff like that, they might just die because you just don't have that big lay on hands heal in your holy shocks, in your you know healing wave with your mastery or healing surge, or holy word, holy word life. How man, no, not that ability, but the serenity. I think holy word serenity, the your lay on hands on your holy priest and stuff like that. So this one right here, preservation, the newest one. Uh, kind of the biggest issue is just the range. You have 30-yard range. It doesn't sound like a much difference, but 30 versus 40-yard is a radius around you, and that makes a huge difference because if you got people standing on the left side and you got people standing on the right side, you're gonna be yelling at them, please stack up. Not just that, you have a cone heal. Like Dream Breath is a cone heal. You need people to be standing in front of you as well, right? So most of your healing is kind of like that. You need people to be standing, understanding. Generally, this is not an issue in Myth Plus because everyone should kind of be standing within 10 to 20 yards of each mob. There is no reason at all for any range to be standing 40 yards away. There are no mechanics like that that matter. Maybe there are some bosses, but at most they need to be standing 20 to 30 yards away from the boss, and that's it. They do not have to be standing max range. I am telling you right now, you are allowed to yell at the hunters to get back into melee. Just because they can cast while moving doesn't mean they have to go into oblivion to DPS. You know, keep that in mind. But once you got that all that stuff in mind, and once you understand the ecosystem of preservation, it is like crazy healing. It is unbelievably powerful healing, and you have access to some very powerful AOE damage. And it's just two buttons. You just fire breath and deep breath. That's it. You're done. You're now absolutely pumping huge amounts of damage and having a good time, just focusing on your healing. And you have so many ways you can play the healing role of like, and it's kind of very much designed for 5 target healing. Even in the raid, you focus mainly on doing huge amounts of healing to 5 targets, right? So super powerful, super strong, very fun. Um, the mm, you might be thinking like, why don't I ever see this spec in the high keys or whatever? It's because of augmentation, right? People are very against running the same 2 classes in any Mythic Plus environment. Like even in pugging, people are like, oh, I can't bring 2 druids to my +2 or whatever. Like, why? Because they bring the same rate buff. Like, who cares? It's a +2. So just keep that in mind. That's the reason. Otherwise, it is extremely powerful. If augmentation never existed, you'd be seeing this way more. But that doesn't mean this is bad. It just means that augmentation is generally considered the go-to evoker spec if you want the evoker utility. And you do want sometimes the evoker utility. It's very powerful. All right. So the noob trap, this would be also over here. It takes a little time, but I just wanted to put it down here as an emphasis on the fact that this is not the super easy just go to healer. I'm a beginner. I don't know what to play. Uh, I think I'm just gonna pick the simple and easy holy priest healer and have a good time. It's not. It's not easy. It is just as difficult as all the other healers in a sense, in that you need to learn the dungeon, you need to learn the fight. Same with the raid, you need to learn the fight. It for some reason has like a billion buttons, and I don't understand why. It just has an insane amount of buttons, and most of them do kind of the same thing. Right. It's very strange, but generally it's a cooldown based healer. So you kind of spam your heals to get cooldowns reduced on your powerful heals, and then your raid heals are super powerful, Divine Hymn and Holy Word Salvation and stuff like that. And don't be afraid to just pop those things all the time, right? They're super nice. Just use them all the time. Divine Hymn in Mythic Plus, you're using that for the healing increase buff, right? It's also really great healing for all targets because it's increased in Mythic Plus. But think about it more like that. You're popping this in like within the first 10 seconds of a big pull, essentially. And don't be afraid to just cancel it because your healing in a bloodlust big pull or whatever is much more powerful than just channeling a divine hymn, right? But yeah, keep in mind, like, it is not a chill spec where you sometimes occasionally cast some heals that are powerful enough. Like, you gotta be going a lot. Like, you gotta be focusing on utilizing your flash heals and heals and the mana reduction on those heals. You can't. Do they get that from Smite? Yeah. They do get it from Smite. This one, right? Utilizing this a lot, your healing spells might have a chance to give you an instant cast flash heal and it costs no mana. And you have a bunch of cooldown reductions that you want to focus on. And the main things are the holy words, right? Don't be afraid to just spam Guardian Spirit because of this right here. It is not reducing the cooldown by 60 seconds, it reduces the cooldown to 60 seconds. So you use this thing on a tank or on a DPS or whatever, and it lasts 10 seconds, and then after that it becomes a 60-second cooldown. So it's essentially a 70-second cooldown. But your big heals are Holy Word Sanctify and Holy Word Serenity. I think it's baseline. It is not baseline. It has been some time since I've seen this, but Prayer of Healing is like the main way to reduce your cooldown on Holy Word Sanctify. I don't think you are supposed to focus too much on Renew. Uh, it is kind of whatever, but yeah, it's the Holy Words. Uh, your spec is just focused on healing, doing big healing. Again, in this expansion, don't worry about DPSing in any capacity. Uh, but I do want to bring a little bit of attention to this thing right here, Holy Word Chastise. It's very, very powerful. It's an incapacitate. You don't need to pick up the stun on it, the censure stun. I don't really recommend that because all you need to do is incapacitate. Once a mob is channeling some ability or something, if you just incapacitate it, it will stop channeling the ability. And for the most part, it will stop. Like it won't recast it. And one thing I wanna keep in mind is that this is not a tanky healer, right? You die a lot. This is the highest deaths I believe in the game. I mean, they do tend to die a lot just in general because you have no mobility. I'm not going to say you have low mobility, you have no mobility. Keep that in mind. Try and stay closer to melee. It may sound more dangerous to be closer to melee, but it's the cone attacks. If you're standing far away and the cone attack hits you right in the middle, you're going to have to move so far to get out of it, and your only terms of mobility you have essentially is a 40% speed up that costs a global cooldown. And sometimes you even have to aim it on yourself and angelic feather. So All right, so that's kind of my idea for the healers. Like I said, it's not much of a. There's not something you can just pick up and have a good like pick up and go, and there's no learning process. There is a learning process, and it's just the healer learning process. Otherwise, it would be kind of like this, easy and good. Take some time, maybe hard to master. I would say like take some time, maybe like this. But all healers are difficult because healing is kind of difficult. It's not really the role that if you just want to like chill game, if you're the kind of player that just like I just want to play like Stardew Valley and have a good time, healing in World of Warcraft is intense. It's stressful. It is satisfying. It is fun, but it's difficult. I would much rather tell you to go DPS on something like a Red Paladin. Red Paladin is just a good time. Stuff like that. All right. That's the tier list, and thank you for watching. See ya.